This is Steamworld Build, the continuation of a franchise a decade in the making. It's going to take the series to new grounds, explore new genres, and be the backdrop for another whimsical tale about robots and digging. It's the most technically impressive entry in the series, and will surely be bringing the good word of Steamworld to many more folk. The developers started out on the Nintendo DS, and now they're here. Sort of. See, this universe is the brainchild of developer Image & Form. But this isn't made by them. These are the new devs, the station. So, where are the original creators? They're at the top of the ladder. They own this studio and others, and are setting them all to work on the next Steamworld chapter. So let's have a look at how a tiny Swedish indie dev grew to make a miniature empire built on mechs and dirt. Before we go any further, let's look at what Steamworld is today. It's a series that doesn't seem to miss its mark. It's known for breaking new ground in a different genre with every release. From card games, to turn-based strategy, to Metroidvanias, and now this, a city builder. None of these titles are the definitive version of their respective genre. This isn't intended to be the best city management game ever made. It won't be knocking the likes of Cities Skylines or Anno off their perches. It's meant to just boil down the concept to its core basic systems and jazz it up a bit. It'll be accessible for folks who don't usually see themselves as a part-time town planner, while also adding in enough charm and quirkiness to make it worth the time of a seasoned cityscaper. One of the big twists, and something that goes back to the series' roots, is the digging mechanic. You're not just building above ground, but burrowing away and creating your own dirty labyrinth beneath your citizens. It's SimCity meets Dungeon Keeper. Like I said, it's not made by the original devs, but one of their satellite studios, the station. OG's Image & Form will be keeping a watchful eye, but it's up to these guys to plot the next step in the series. They're keeping the original design philosophy in play, a philosophy that's extended over 10 years. So that's where they are at present. Now to look at where it all started. Let's rewind a bit. Steamworld Dig is the game that most people assume Image & Form started with. But the adventures of Rusty digging beneath the earth wasn't the beginning, not by a long shot. By this point, the company was already nearly 20 years old. It was founded by one Mr. Brian Sjögren, but Brian spelt in the most difficult way possible because, you know, Sweden.
こちらブライアン・シーグルゲイルソン・イングワンソンでしょ
Initially, Image & Form wasn't a game dev at all. The Gothenburg-based startup was a multimedia company, doing a little bit of this and a little bit of that. Web design, corporate presentations, that kind of thing.
So Image & Form was founded on PowerPoint?
It was not PowerPoint. PowerPoint was really like a... Yeah, you could say that.
The company made the jump from PowerPoint to game development when they got a contract to make some edutainment games. And they were pretty good at it. So much so that they kept doing it for 8 years. After this long doing the same thing, the studio felt like it needed a change. They decided to make their own game to break the rut. A little tower defense ditty on the Nintendo DS. Without that edutainment money, the company really needed this to break even. And it did. So it left them at a crossroads. Back to 8 more years of churning out software meant to trick kids into doing maths, or try and make something of this game dev thing. They went with option 2, and they already had their next project lined up. Steamworld Dig. Now, it sounds like they had everything sorted out from the get-go, like some elaborate scheme to create an intricate alternate universe from the first game. Nope, kinda just happened by accident. At first, they really wanted to make a digging game. That sounded really neat. Making it in the same universe sort of made sense, so they decided to just roll with it. Their aims were much grander than the first game, and they borrowed a hefty sum of money to see the project through. But it all worked out. It blew Steamworld Tower Defense out of the water and was a critical and financial hit. It set them up to keep going full throttle. So they made their digging game. What was next on the list? Someone at the company floated the idea. Wouldn't it be cool to make XCOM, but 2D? Hell yeah it would. So they made it, and they set it in that same universe. It became Steamworld Heist. Steamworld Dig had created a stir, and the devs were worried that fans would be expecting a straight sequel, an approach that most other studios would take. But the fans ate up this surprise departure from the beloved digging game, and quickly, this all went from a series of games tied together because it made sense into a fully fledged franchise. At this point, the audience knew that Image and Form were full of surprises, but after Heist, the company started to have a bit of fun. They'd created this new strategy. A new game means a new genre. But what if they now decided to make a sequel? They referred to the project as Steamworld Quest in paperwork and documents, knowing that it would probably get leaked, which it did. Players followed the rabbit hole and tried to work out everything they could about Steamworld Quest, but it was a red herring. Image and Form were just toying with them, as the project was actually Steamworld Dig 2. Then, the red herring turned into a real herring? They released Steamworld Quest, which was completely unrelated to the original project, and was a deck-building, role-playing mashup. The quality and polish on every title they released was top-notch, and the change in genres meant they kept bringing in new potential audiences. And all the while, Brian was at the top, directing and pushing forward. But fans came to know him on a more personal level. He regularly appeared in video podcasts about the series, and provided insights into the company. He was energetic, passionate, funny. He had come a long way from making his money using PowerPoint. But he always had bigger plans for the company and the franchise. While they were knocking it out of the park time and again with each game, he was making friends in Sweden. Not particularly surprising, since he lives there, and he seems a pretty friendly guy. But these friends were important. Klaus Lingeled was CEO of another Gothenburg dev, Zoink. Their studios started intermingling and testing each other's products. And in 2017, the two companies merged to create Thunderful, along with Bergsala Holdings, who had a stake in both of them. It didn't take long to start growing. A year later, Thunderful began acquiring studios from their parent company. Then Bergsala put its own assets into Thunderful. It gained a distribution wing, a publishing division, and it continued to produce games. It was a triple threat, one that was gonna keep expanding. They picked up more studios: Coatsink, Jumpship, To The Sky. They acquired a consultancy firm and even a film studio. They were building a mini indie empire, but one that wouldn't lose sight of where it came from. One of the acquisitions was The Station, the very same The Station who were making Steamworld Build. But they aren't the only satellite tasked with carrying on the Steamworld legacy. Image and Form may technically be no more, but in reality, they're the top rung of Thunderful, orchestrating the steps and turning Steamworld from a franchise into, well, a slightly larger franchise. Once upon a time, they were only able to make games one by one, and it would have taken quite a while. They'd also have to take out loans, and have that constant worry that if the game failed, Image and Form would go under. But not anymore. Now they have an arsenal of resources, with some of Europe's scrappiest young studios, all eager to make their mark. They can make games more often, faster, and they can roll with multiple projects simultaneously. Steamworld Build is an exciting addition to the franchise, but it's also only one of several. There are 3 other games in development to keep the series about dirt and robots ticking into new territory. Yet despite this rapid growth, the core mantra of the original developer is still there. That indie feistiness is front and center. Brian Sjergsen may have a lot of companies under his wing, but he's still out there making videos for Thunderful's YouTube channel and appearing in promotional material for the games. Games which really should be out of his hands, but the original creators have such a strong attachment to the series that they just can't keep away. We can expect the future of Steamworld to be bright. There'll be more games, new genres attempted, and unique touches to set them apart from the crowd. But those charged with them are placing a high importance on the core fundamentals, the things that made Steamworld Dig, Heist, and Quest so special. Honestly, it's refreshing to see something like this. With the modern gaming giants, you actually don't see many new IPs coming along. It's even rarer to see new franchises form. Taking a risk on something contemporary isn't a smart move when a publisher can push out a remake, or a remaster, or a sequel, or a spin-off. It kind of makes sense. These big games cost hundreds of millions of dollars to make and market. Would you put that cash on the line for something that doesn't have a clear-cut audience already established? But indie games don't have that issue. Yes, these games still cost a lot to make, but a lukewarm reception to something a bit more experimental, well, they can bounce back from that. Studios aren't going to go under. People aren't going to lose their jobs. But if you keep taking those chances, and it keeps paying off, well, then you get something like what Image and Form created, a beloved and quirky franchise that explores a new genre with every title. It keeps the developers on their toes, and it means they're making the games they want to make. But it also keeps their audience broadening their own gaming horizons. I may love Steamworld Dig, but I've no interest in turn-based strategy. But maybe I should try Heist, because I know I love the IP. Worst case, I have fun with the game, but I still prefer Dig. Best case, I fall in love with it, and the style and the gameplay and the genre, and I've just realised I've liked turn-based strategy all along. Even from the get-go, the polish, attention to detail, and simple passion they poured into their games is just excellent to see. I'd usually be worried that when a dev gets too big, they lose touch with their roots, but these folks feel firmly grounded. I think this series has got a big future ahead of it.